Yesterday was just another ordinary day in my painfully predictable life. I woke up to the grating sound of my alarm clock, groaning as I slapped it silent. The same dingy apartment, the same lukewarm shower, the same bland breakfast of toast and coffee. Every morning felt like a carbon copy of the last, and I was starting to wonder if I'd ever escape the monotony. My job at the office was no different. As a low-level analyst, my days were filled with endless spreadsheets and meaningless meetings. I spent my hours staring at the clock, counting down the minutes until I could leave. My coworkers were nice enough, but I kept to myself, lost in my thoughts of a life that felt just out of reach. By the time 5 o'clock rolled around, I was ready to escape. I grabbed my coat and headed out, feeling the cool evening air on my face. As I walked down the bustling streets, I passed by a small convenience store that I'd never paid much attention to before. Something about the bright neon sign caught my eye this time. Maybe it was the flashing Mega Millions jackpot announcement, or just the urge to break my routine, but I found myself stepping inside. The store was small and cluttered, with shelves crammed full of snacks and drinks. I made my way to the counter where an elderly cashier gave me a tired smile. "What can I get for you?" he asked. I hesitated for a moment, then pointed to the lottery tickets behind him. "One of those, please." He handed me the ticket, and I paid, feeling a strange sense of excitement bubbling up inside me. As I left the store, the ticket felt like a burning ember in my pocket, a tiny spark of possibility in my otherwise dull life. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the lottery ticket in front of me. I couldn't help but laugh at myself. What were the odds of winning? Practically zero. But for the first time in ages, I felt a sliver of hope. I tucked the ticket into my wallet and went to bed, dreaming of what could be. The next morning, my routine felt different. I felt different. There was a strange energy in the air, a sense of anticipation I hadn't felt in years. I went through the motions of my day with a spring in my step, my mind constantly drifting back to that lottery ticket. By the time I got home, I was practically bouncing with excitement. I turned on the TV and flipped to the channel announcing the winning numbers. My heart pounded in my chest as the numbers were read out one by one. I held my breath as I checked my ticket, my eyes widening in disbelief. Every number matched, every single one. I had to read the numbers 3 more times before it sank in. I had won. I had actually won. The realization hit me like a tidal wave, a mix of exhilaration and disbelief washing over me. I screamed, I laughed, I cried. This was it. This was my chance to escape the monotony, to change my life forever. As the initial shock began to wear off, I sat down and tried to think clearly. What would I do with all that money? The possibilities seemed endless, and my mind raced with dreams of luxury and adventure. But somewhere deep down, a tiny voice whispered caution. I ignored it. This was my moment. The lottery ticket I bought yesterday had changed everything. The morning after discovering I'd won the lottery was surreal. I called in sick to work, knowing there was no way I could sit at my desk and pretend to care about spreadsheets. Instead, I spent the day in a daze, alternating between fits of laughter and tears. I was a millionaire. My whole life was about to change. Claiming the prize wasn't as simple as I'd imagined. The process was lengthy and involved, requiring a trip to the lottery headquarters and multiple verifications. I tried to keep a low profile, but word got out. It started with a local news station and quickly spread to national media. Suddenly, I was the subject of countless articles and interviews, my face plastered everywhere. People I hadn't spoken to in years came out of the woodwork, congratulating me and subtly hinting at their own financial troubles. The money hit my account in installments, each one more staggering than the last. With every deposit, my excitement grew, and so did the attention. Old friends, distant relatives, even complete strangers started reaching out. Everyone seemed to want a piece of my newfound fortune. At first, I was generous. I paid off my parents' mortgage, helped a few friends with debts, and made sizable donations to charities. But the requests kept coming, and I began to feel overwhelmed. I decided it was time to treat myself. I bought a luxurious penthouse in the city, filled it with designer furniture, and parked a shiny new sports car in the garage. For a while, life was a whirlwind of shopping sprees, expensive dinners, and glamorous parties. I reveled in the attention and the envy of those around me. But as the weeks went by, the excitement started to wear off. The constant barrage of requests for money became draining. I found myself questioning people's motives, wondering if they genuinely cared about me or just my wealth. The once exhilarating media attention turned into an intrusive nightmare, with paparazzi lurking outside my building and reporters hounding me for interviews. One evening, I threw a lavish party at my new place, inviting everyone who'd been clamoring for my attention. The penthouse was filled with laughter and music, but I couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. As I watched people mingle and drink, I realized I barely knew most of them. They were there for the spectacle, not for me. My so-called friends were more interested in my wealth than in who I was. The final straw came when I discovered that a close friend had been embezzling money from an investment I'd made to help his failing business. The betrayal hit me hard, shattering the last remnants of my trust. Paranoia set in. I began to see everyone as a potential threat, a person who might be using me for my money. In a desperate attempt to regain some control, I started making risky investments, hoping to grow my wealth even further. But my inexperience and desperation led to poor decisions. The investments turned sour, and I watched helplessly as large chunks of my fortune evaporated. I spiraled into a state of anxiety and isolation. My once vibrant social life dwindled as I pushed people away, convinced they were only after my money. The penthouse, which had once symbolized my success, now felt like a gilded cage. I was alone, paranoid, and rapidly losing everything I'd gained. Sitting in the vast emptiness of my living room, I couldn't help but think back to the day I bought that lottery ticket. The hope and excitement I'd felt seemed like a cruel joke now. My dream of a better life had turned into a nightmare of distrust and loss. The lottery ticket I bought yesterday had indeed changed everything, but not in the way I had hoped. One evening, as I sat in my penthouse, the city lights twinkling outside my window, I realized I had reached rock bottom. The once exhilarating promise of wealth had left me isolated and distrustful, and the financial security I thought would last forever had crumbled beneath my poor decisions and misguided generosity. I was alone, and my bank account was dangerously close to empty. In the midst of this despair, a phone call shattered the silence. It was my childhood friend Sarah. We had grown up together, but had lost touch over the years. She had heard about my win, but hadn't reached out, respecting my privacy. Hearing her voice was like a lifeline. She invited me to visit her in the small town where we grew up, far from the glitz and chaos of the city. Desperate for a break, I accepted. Returning to my hometown was a stark contrast to my life in the city. The familiar sights and sounds brought back memories of simpler times. Sarah welcomed me with open arms, and for the first time in months, I felt a semblance of peace. We spent hours reminiscing about our childhood, walking through old haunts and reconnecting with mutual friends. During my stay, I helped Sarah with her small, struggling cafe. It was a humble place, but it was filled with warmth and genuine interactions. The customers were regulars who knew each other by name, and the sense of community was palpable. I found myself enjoying the simple tasks, brewing coffee, cleaning tables, and chatting with patrons. It was a stark reminder of what I had lost in my pursuit of wealth. One afternoon, while cleaning up, I stumbled upon a local newspaper with an article about a family in need. Their home had burned down, and they were struggling to make ends meet. Without a second thought, I donated a significant amount anonymously. It felt different this time, meaningful, without any expectation of recognition or return. Sarah noticed the change in me and sat me down one evening. "You've been through a lot," she said gently. "But remember, it's not the money that defines you. It's what you do with it." Her words struck a chord. I realized that my pursuit of wealth had blinded me to the things that truly mattered: relationships, community, and genuine kindness. I had been given an extraordinary opportunity, but I had let it corrupt me instead of enriching my life in meaningful ways. Determined to turn things around, I decided to sell the penthouse and the sports car. I used the remaining funds to set up a foundation aimed at helping those in need, people like the family from the newspaper, and small businesses like Sarah's Cafe. The foundation became my new purpose, a way to give back and make amends for my past mistakes. Running the foundation brought me a sense of fulfillment I had never experienced before. I was no longer chasing superficial dreams. I was building something real and impactful. The work was challenging, but it was rewarding in ways that money could never be. I reconnected with old friends and built new relationships based on trust and shared values, not wealth. Looking back, I realized that the lottery ticket I bought yesterday had indeed changed everything. It had taken me on a tumultuous journey, but it had also led me to discover my true self. I had learned that happiness and fulfillment come not from material wealth, but from making a positive difference in the lives of others and nurturing genuine connections. The money may have come and gone, but the lessons I learned were invaluable. I found peace and purpose in the simplest of things, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly content. The lottery ticket had changed everything, But in the end, it had also brought me back to what mattered most.